Hey friends, happy Sunday and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. If you're new here, hello and welcome. I am Taylor. I'm a stay-at-home wife and mom, and I share these What's for Dinner videos every Sunday to hopefully give you some new meal ideas and to motivate you to cook more for your family. I usually try about 3 new recipes a week. I like to make these videos interesting for y'all. And I also don't like to cook the same things over and over and over again. If it was up to my family, we would probably eat the same like 10 or 15 meals every week and just rotate them. But I like to try new things, and they don't mind trying new things. But yeah, it's just makes it more fun for me as the person who has to spend the time in the kitchen. As always, any recipes that I mention will be linked in the description box down below. Now let's go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. One of my family's favorite crockpot meals is meatball subs, but this week we tried like a twist on that. So as usual, I made my meatballs in the crockpot. We've got just a third of the bag of the frozen meatballs from Sam's Club that I always buy. They're the beef ones. And then 1 jar of marinara sauce. And I used some water to kind of get everything out of the jar. And then just toss that around, make sure all the meatballs were coated in sauce, and put a lid on it. Sometimes I will air fry the meatballs first just so they can get a little brown first, but it's not 100% necessary. Most of the time I just skip it because it's just quicker to just throw them in there. And then they just cooked on low for 3 hours. You do them on high for like 2, but like low 3 to 4 is what I usually do. And then when it came time to eat, I took some garlic bread. I just wanted regular garlic bread, but Aldi was out, so I got the Texas Toast 5 cheese and just cooked those according to the box directions. Then when the garlic bread was done, I just took a spoon and pressed down the inside of the garlic bread. This is a little bit more difficult since there is a bunch of cheese there, but it worked out pretty well. And then I just filled them with meatballs. I did, I think, like 3 or 4 meatballs per piece of toast. Some of the pieces of toast were a little bit smaller, so those ones I did 3, and the bigger pieces I did 4. And then I just topped this with some mozzarella cheese and stuck it back in the oven for about 5 minutes so that cheese could melt. You'll notice I pulled off 2 of the pieces of garlic bread for Andy, my husband, to eat later. He got home later this evening, so I wanted to make his fresh for him. So I made it 2 for everyone, but I ended up eating 2. The kids each ended up eating 1 apiece, and then the leftover 2 that they didn't eat, I reheated the next day in the air fryer, and the leftovers were great. And to go with this, we just had some fresh veggies on the side, and it was a delicious dinner. It was a great alternative to meatball subs. It was just something new and fun. Saturday night, we just had some BLTs. I picked up this Pain Toronto bread, I think that's how you say it, from Aldi. I toasted that in the air fryer. We made our bacon in the oven. And then Elijah had, a BLC, bacon, lettuce, and cheese. Lily had a BTC, bacon, tomato, and cheese. And I am a BLT purist. It is mayonnaise, bacon, lettuce, and tomato. That is it. Andy will put cheese on his as well. He will also do mustard on his. I know some people do avocado and egg. I've done it with avocado. But really my favorite way to have a BLT is just the simple, regular old BLT. So we had our BLTs with some chips on the side, and that was dinner for Saturday. Sunday night we tried a new recipe I'm going to call smoked sausage Cajun Alfredo. This is actually inspired by a recipe that I saw while browsing Pinterest. It's from Plain Chicken. But that recipe that I saw was not a one-pot meal, and I was like, I like that, but I want to make it a one-pot meal. So that is what I'm doing today. Started off by taking a package of smoked sausage and slicing it up, and then I just threw that in my pan and got it nice and browned. And then I'm going to be adding a total of 2 cups of chicken broth, but I started by adding just a little bit of it, probably about 1/4 of a cup, and deglazing the bottom of my pan. And then once that was all done, I added in the rest of the chicken broth, and then 2 cups of half and half. And then for seasoning, I did some Cajun seasoning, garlic powder, onion salt, paprika, and pepper. And then I also added in my pasta. I am using a 16-ounce box of, I think this is cavatappi pasta, but whatever kind of pasta you want, just a 16-ounce box. And then I brought that to a boil, and then once it came to a boil, I reduced the heat to a medium-low and put a lid on this and just let it simmer, stirring occasionally until the pasta was cooked through and most of that liquid was absorbed. And then once the pasta was done, I added in some Parmesan cheese. I probably did about a cup of Parmesan cheese. And then I tasted it to see if I needed to add any more seasoning. I thought it needed a little bit more Cajun seasoning, so I added that. And then that's it. It was ready to serve. This was super rich and filling, so I didn't do anything on the side of this, but you could definitely do like some garlic bread or a salad or whatever you want. This was delicious, and I would definitely make it again. I love one-pot meals. Monday night, we had Mississippi pot roast, which I've shared many times. It's one of our family's favorite meals. I've got a 2.5-pound chuck roast here that I've added to my crock pot, and then I sprinkle on half of the packet of the au jus seasoning mix, and then half a package of ranch seasoning mix, and then I'm going to start adding in my veggies. Not everyone adds in veggies, but I feel like it really helps if you think it's salty. If you add in a bunch of potatoes and carrots, it helps it not be as salty because they will definitely absorb some of that saltiness, and it just makes it more of a whole meal. So I add in a 2-pound bag of baby potatoes that I cut up and a 2-pound bag of carrots that I peeled and sliced up. And then I add in the rest of that au jus packet, the rest of the ranch packet, and then we're going to add in some peppers. I was actually out of the whole pepperoncini peppers, so I'm actually using some banana like pepper slices, and then some of the juice from the jar, and then 1 stick of butter sliced up, add that to the top, put a lid on this, and let it cook. Now, usually I'd recommend to cook this on low for like 8 to 10 hours, but I've been having issues with my chuck roasts, like not wanting to be fall apart tender after that time. I used to have no problem at all. My crock pot is cooking everything else fine, so I don't think there's an issue with my crock pot. The fat on these chuck roasts is just taking longer to break down. So I actually cooked this on high for 10 hours. And then here is how it looked after the 10 hours. My carrots and potatoes were perfectly tender. They were not like super mushy or anything. They came out whole, but then like, you can mash them up if you wanted to. But who would do that? But I take them all out, put them in a bowl, and then I'm able to easily shred my meat, and it's shredded great. And then my family likes to have this over white rice. I'm the only one who does not eat the rice. I would rather just eat a bunch of the potatoes. I love the potatoes that are in here. Potatoes are one of my favorite foods ever. And so I opt to not eat rice. I'd rather just have more potatoes. And that is Mississippi pot roast. I say this every time, but if you haven't tried it, you should definitely give it a try. It's a favorite. Tuesday was actually our first day back to homeschool, and spaghetti is one of my family's favorite meals, so I made spaghetti to 1, keep it easy, and 1, to just let them have something that is a favorite that they really enjoy. Wednesday night, I tried a new recipe for chicken and noodles. This recipe looked really easy when I saw it on TikTok, and I knew I wanted to try it immediately. So I started off by cutting up 1 pound of chicken breast into bite-sized pieces, and then I just seasoned it all over with some Cajun seasoning and garlic powder. And then in a skillet, I added about half a cup of frozen pepper and onion blend and just cooked that up until it was no longer frozen and it was soft. And then to that, I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of butter. And then once that's melted, I added in my chicken. And then I just wanted to brown my chicken up, let it get like nice and browned. You don't have to worry about cooking it all the way through at this point. It will continue cooking once you add in your noodles later. And then I added in 32 ounces or 4 cups of chicken broth. I actually did water and Nor chicken bouillon, but you can use regular chicken broth if you want. And then I brought that to a boil. Once it came to a boil, I added in 2 packages of the Knorr chicken flavor pasta side, and then I just let that cook over like a medium heat until the noodles were done and like most of that liquid was absorbed. You want to make sure you stir it often so it doesn't like stick to the bottom. And for me, the package says 7 minutes, but for me it took about 10 minutes for my noodles to be done and for most of that liquid to be absorbed. Then once it's done, all you gotta do is serve it up. I made a can of peas to go on the side of this, and everyone loved it, and it was super simple and easy to make. I would definitely make this again. And finally, for Thursday night, we just had like a salmon sheet pan dinner. So on my large sheet pan here, I've got a 2-pound bag of baby potatoes that I cut in half, and then some baby carrots that I also cut in half, and I drizzled those with some olive oil, and then I seasoned them up with some garlic powder, onion salt, paprika, and some blackened seasoning. And then I tossed them around again, make sure everything was coated with that stuff, and then put it in the oven on 425 for 15 minutes. After the 15 minutes, I took them out and added some broccoli to the other half of the pan, and I did the same thing with that. Drizzled it with some olive oil and used the same seasonings, and then put this back in the oven for another 20 minutes. And then at that point, everything will be done and like cooked to the like doneness that we like. If you like your broccoli less done, you might not want to put it in there for 10 or for 20 minutes. You might want to put it in there like for the like last 10. It just depends on how you like your stuff done. But after a total of like 35 minutes, my potatoes and carrots were the perfect texture. Then I've got some salmon here. I am brushing it with some of the Chef Chamois garlic butter that I melted up. And then I'm just going to sprinkle on some of that blackened seasoning. And then this goes in the oven on 425 for the last 15 minutes. I put this on a smaller sheet pan just because I didn't really have room on the other one. And I also lined this one with parchment paper for easy cleanup. Once my vegetables were done, I added on some Parmesan cheese and then threw these back in the oven under the broiler for like 3 minutes. It helped them crisp up and it helped that Parmesan cheese melt. And this turned out delicious. Like the Parmesan cheese on everything was so good. I just made a box of like rice-a-roni rice, and then we had our salmon, and here's how everything looked plated up. This was the great like end of the week dinner. Use up some veggies that we had in the fridge that needed to be used up, like those carrots and broccoli, before I ended up going grocery shopping the next day. But that is going to be it for this week's What's for Dinner. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you leave me a thumbs up. Make sure you leave me a smiley face emoji down in the comments to let me know you made it here all the way to the end. And if you plan on trying any of the recipes that I shared with you today, let me know which ones down in the comments. I hope y'all have a great rest of your weekend and a great week, and I will see y'all Tuesday for the grocery haul.